last time I did a tench video for you guys was last season, last spring, on a big lake looking for big tench. So this time it couldn't be more different. It's mid-April and we're on a small, intimate little pond, just trying to get some bites. What we're looking at is how to get those bites early season, choosing the right venue and the right tactics, but also how to combat nuisance fish. There's a lot of small fish in here that have been driving me crazy, and I'm going to show you how I've managed to get around that as well. As you might be able to tell, it is very early morning still. It's coming up for 6 o'clock. It was only 5 degrees in the car on the way over here, so it is still really cold at night. Obviously that is going to make things tricky, but we have picked a lake that's got a few fish in it, so let's hope we can get a tench or two. The intention of this is to cast it around to find the fish. I think the first spot is just going to be sort of middle of the lake, start in the middle, and I'm just going to move it around. Oh, there's some bubblers coming up there. Right, that's telling me where they might be. I'm just going to plop it there then. It might be worth saying that I do think that it's a good idea starting on these smaller lakes early season, one that's got a few fish in it, get your eye in, you know, before you move on to the big pits. Also with these smaller lakes, quite often they're shallower, and I find the shallower lakes, they warm up quicker in spring, and if they warm up quicker, then the fish tend to be a little bit more active. And yeah, it's just a good bet, I think, yeah, before you go on to those bigger pits, aiming for those bigger fish, coming onto these smaller intimate ponds that are a bit shallower, a bit warmer, getting a few bites, building your confidence, and then going for gold, you know, once you've got a few fish under your belt. Does feel like a tench. Cast over to some reeds to my right. Had to wait a while for it, but I do think it's the tinker I'm after. First one on the all-rounder, which is kind of cool. Shows they're over by the reeds. There we go. Lovely job. Well, it's very cold morning still, and that's made it quite tricky, but we have got the first one in the morning on the flatbed feeder. Very cold, but glad to be getting amongst these. So very slow going so far, and not really a surprise. It might be that we actually start getting a few bites once it does warm up a bit. It's really cold at the moment, but I can see the sun hitting the far bank. Maybe as it warms up we might get a bite or two. I've moved a couple of times, come down to the end of the lake. I did notice the odd reed knocking down here. There's certainly some fish here. It's just a matter of whether we can get them feeding and get a bite, I think. Yes, came over to see if there are any fish in these reeds. And there certainly are. That's been in the water 10 minutes. Just moved pegs, moved 3 pegs up, and it was definitely worth it. The last fish I had, I did swing round towards these reeds from a different peg. Yeah, maybe they are in and around here. Like I say, that was quick. Oh yeah, he's a better fish. That was a nice easy bit of fish in there, just plopped it next to the reeds, underarm swing. No free offerings there. It was been so cold. I don't think I'm going to be able to get him feeding. It's literally little traps. Yeah, he's a nicer one. Yeah, we've got a slightly better one. There we are. Moved down a couple of pegs near some reeds, and that one went quite quickly. It was only in the water for 10 minutes. So a couple of hours down there struggling in the right spot for 10 minutes, and a lovely tench. Let's take a bit of a break from the fishing to go through some of the bits and pieces I'm actually using today. The rods I'm using are the Korum all-rounders, 12 foot, 1.5 pound. It's a lovely rod. Really, it's reasonably soft, but it has got enough power to bully some of these powerful tench away from the reeds. The weed's going to be coming up here very soon. It's already started to come up. So I do want something that's got a little bit of a power so that I can control the fish. Lovely cork handles. Got to love a bit of cork. Onto that, I've got an Inferno reel, and it's got the 10-pound feeder line. Now, if it wasn't for the weed here and the reeds and all the obstructions, I'd probably drop that to 8. But just to be on the safe side, I've got 10-pound line. So the rig that I'm using is a little flatbed feeder rig. I've got a 30 gram flatbed feeder there. I've got a camo quick change bead there. It's one of the bolt kind, which means it's got a little bit of a tail to create like a semi bolt. It's completely safe, but it does create a slight bolt, allowing you better hookups. And then I'm using 2 little rigs really. There's this one, which is a 4-inch rig, and I'm using the banded hook hairs, which are really, really neat. A very easy solution. It means that all I need to do is take some 8-pound smoke screen and tie up a little rig and tie one of those on, and I'm using a 10mm wafter. The only other rig that I'm using if I'm wanting to use one of the pellet O's is the 15-inch grappler hair rigs, and I'm taking these ones are 8-pound breaking strain, size 14 hook. They're actually 15 inches long, but that means I can cut them down to size, and then I've got more of a traditional hair rig that I can put the pellet O's on. Here's what I'm putting on the feeder. They're actually scalded pellets, and this is my little trick to go past the nuisance fish. It's the only thing that I've really found to put on the feeder to combat those when they really are a problem. You know, certainly maggots and worms, and even the 2mm sticky pellets. They're a bit small, and I'm just worried that those small fish are just going to clear those 2mm off the feeder, and there'll be nothing there for the tench. So I've got some quite big 8mm pellets here. And what I do is that I pour boiling hot water on them, and then after about 30 seconds a minute, I'll pour that away and leave it overnight, and the next morning they're absolutely perfect. They're all nice and soft like this, and they'll press into the feeder really nicely, and they'll sort of create what feels like a bit of a big congealed mess on the feeder, to be honest. But you can be sure then that what you have got on the feeder, the particles there are just too big for the small fish, and that you have got some bait around your hook bait ready for when the tench come along. Some people talk about whether to put the wafter in with them or whether to leave them loose. I think with a rig like this, I probably would leave it loose, and I do most of the time. The only time I don't is if the weed really has come up, and I'm worried that that hook link's going to get caught up in the weed. Got another one. Go for the near bank. Oh, this one is a baby. There we are, pellet O, just out of its mouth. Right, we won't mess about with this one. Got some quite nasty markings on it, and he's not very big, so I'm going to get him back quickly. There he goes. Something that I have been doing and that I find works in early season tenching is dotting the feeders around. I sort of liken it to carp fishing in spring or early spring. You know, they call it bit fishing, don't they, where they're just fishing bits and bobs. They're not putting a lot of bait in. And I kind of like bring that into my tench fishing in spring. I'm literally, you know, in a month's time, when I've got consistent double figure nighttime temperatures, I'll be putting a bit of bait out, you know, with the spod and the rest of it. But right now, I really am just dotting feeders around. I'm just literally moving them around to try and locate the fish without putting any feed out at all, just what's on the feeder. Again, to refer back to carp fishing, I used to catch a lot of carp by dotting around solid bags. It feels very much like that. So not hitting the same spot over and over and over and trying to build a swim, that's not what we're doing. We're dotting the feeders around, trying to locate the fish. The sun's come out and we have got one on. Right, we've lost a couple, so we don't want this one to come off. As it warms up, we might actually catch a few fish now. That time on a wafter. Here it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes. Lovely. Well, the sun's come out. We've got another little baby, look. Just nice to be out here catching them. We'll slip him back. So I think that probably is us done today. I think it's getting a little bit bright. I think those classic early mornings are what you really do want to hit with the tench. I do find as we get into sort of like the day and the sun gets too high in the sky, the bites are going to get harder and harder to come by. So I think we'll probably leave it there. I've used these scalded pellet tactics really quite well, not just on this venue, but some other venues early in the season to catch some tench, which has thrown up a few surprises in the way of tench, to say the least. But it has been a good start to the season using these methods. So yeah, go out there, give it a go, particularly good on a short session where you're trying to get a bite, you haven't got time to build up a swim, and the fish, you know, they might just not be having it until we get those increased temperatures. It feels like the really good conditions are still to come, and but it is good to be out on the bank, and those good times are coming, and can't wait to carry on fishing for the tench as we go out of spring and into the summer.